Oh, I'm so happy I didn't go to sleep and actually finished the run. Awesome. G freaking G. Nice. So, you finally beat Classic Mode and are ready to start your Endless Mode adventure. First and foremost, congrats champ, that was a great feat. You're in for a treat with Endless Mode unlocked. I've received a lot of questions about team composition, item prioritization, abilities, and people just asking for general tips on how to set yourself up for a successful Endless run. In this video we will dive into all the details and I will share several great strategies that will help you get deep into Endless Mode. There are a couple requirements that have to be met to set yourself up for success, so it can take several runs before you actually make it far. Take it easy, sit back and relax, as I will guide you on your way to become a competent PokeRogue Endless player. The most important thing about Endless Mode is your starting party. You want to set yourself up with as many of the right Pokemons from the get-go, because pivoting into a different strategy can be a pain. However, you cannot take all the pieces of the puzzle with you from the very start, so it's essential to upgrade your party as you play. More on this later. Since you get 15 points in Endless to build your team as opposed to the 10 in Classic Mode, there's a lot more room to build your party. But even with 15 points you're going to have to make choices. Fusing Pokemons is a necessity to make it far, and you cannot fuse any of your Pokemon without being in the actual game and obtaining the DNA Splicer item. Even if you miss a lot of the puzzle pieces covered in this guide, it is very possible to start a run with an unoptimized team and pivot into stronger Pokemon fusions as you play. Fortunately, the most important aspects and strategies are easily accessible and don't rely on rare legendary Pokemon or hard to find hidden abilities. However, hidden abilities and egg moves can definitely help you with your runs. The footage you're looking at now is from my beloved Teacup, which is also the Pokemon that actually won me my first Classic run, believe it or not. I think this mon is very underutilized and it's really good because it has access to the move Matcha Gotcha. Matcha Gotcha is a move that hits both opponents in a double battle and it heals 50% per target hit, so that basically means you're gonna heal 100% back once you hit two Pokemons at the same time. It's really good. And as you can see, it just soloed wave 1000 in Endless Mode, so even a silly Teacup can be your carry. You want to start your party with at least a single Pokemon that has PokeRogue, which is indicated by the purple square box around the Pokemons in the starter select screen. PokeRogue gives us an extra 1.5 times multiplier for all the experience gained and it will spread to your entire team in about 50 waves. If this can also be a Pokemon that helps the team, it's a win-win. But if it's a Pokemon that's not going to do anything or very little for us when it comes to beating the waves, you want the Pokemon to be as low cost as possible, as it will be dropped as soon as it spreads its PokeRogue to one of the main Pokemon on your team. The random Pokemon that get infected with PokeRogue change at the same time as the daily run, which is at 2 AM Central European time. And there's a grand total of 3 different Pokemons that get PokeRogue every day. Before we start getting into team composition, it's important to know that the start of Endless is by far the most difficult. A simple rule of thumb that applies to both Classic and Endless Mode is that your potions and other healing items are rather cheap at the start, so always make sure to heal up your entire party. It is very possible that RNG is simply not in your favor and that you will run into a wall at some point in an early wave. This is completely fine. If it happens to you, just try again. It is time to dive deeper into team composition. If you have access to a shiny version of a Pokemon that fits the needs of the strategies explained going forward, you always want to prioritize it over a non-shiny Pokemon. Shiny Pokemon are your best friend as they add better luck to the item shop. This luck caps out at 14, which gives you the SSS tier of luck, shown at the top in the item shop, which appears after each non-boss wave. This gives you a 14.3% chance for any of the item shop's Pokeballs to get a tier up once initially shown, and this also applies when rerolling. The bread and butter of every PokeRogue Endless run, and also for Classic runs, is the ability Pickup. A Pokemon with Pickup is able to gather items from all wild Pokemon you encounter every wave. It is good to know that it only has to be alive and in your party for the ability to work. There's no need to send it out in the battlefield. The most important items it will pick up are berries. Since berries stack and you can use an unlimited amount in a single battle, they are essential for success. Make sure to frequently check your pickup Pokemon and transfer items to your carry. Other than berries, pickup also gets you a ton of lucky eggs and golden eggs, which increase the XP of a Pokemon that is holding them. You can have a total of 99 of these on your Pokemon. And equally important are the damage boosting type items, such as Spell Tag. These items increase the damage by 20% for its respective type, and you can also have a maximum of 99 of these. These really add up and boost your damage a lot, so don't underestimate them. Another accessible ability that can save your run is the ability Run Away. This allows you to be able to always run away from a non-boss wave. However, take note that you do not go to the item shop if you do run away. The runaway strategy is something that is essential for the mid and end game of Endless Mode, but it can also save your run early on if you do happen to run into something nasty that counters your carry. A list of all Pokémon with the runaway ability and a list of all Pokémon with the pickup ability can be found in the video description. Now that we have discussed two of the most essential abilities for a successful Endless run, it is time to talk about carries. A carry is a Pokémon that you'll be investing all your resources in and that is going to do almost all the work for you. Every Endless run needs one, and you can easily get up to wave 2k plus with any Pokémon that has decent base stats and preferably access to a move that can hit both opponents in a double battle. At the start of the video I already gave an example of a great non-legendary carry, which is Sinitcha with the move Matcha Gotcha. Another very strong early carry is Goldengo, who gets the move Make It Rain. Make It Rain hits both opposing Pokémon and also earns you money every time you hit. Similar to Goldengo, another very good early game carry that can help you out with your money is Meowth, with the ability Technician. Technician makes it so 60 power moves deal 50% more damage, which makes them deal 90 power. Meowth learns the move Payday at level 12. Using Payday ensures that you have a little bit of extra money after every wave. By applying the right strategy, you can almost use every Pokémon as your early carry. If you can't think of any good carry and you do not have a good legendary Pokémon, you can easily use Mudkip, Turtwig and or Fuecoco as a carry, which are starter Pokémons that you have access to from the get-go. However, it is a bit more difficult to get through the early game of Endless with those than it would be with a decent legendary Pokémon. As I said earlier, it can really help if your carry is able to hit both opponents in a double battle. A list of Pokémon moves that can hit both opponents can be found in the video description. However, do note there's definitely more options. If you have access to a legendary Pokémon with good base stats, it is a fantastic idea to pick that as your carry. Almost all legendary Pokémon will outperform non-legendary Pokémon, even if they do not have access to a move that can hit both opponents or don't learn many useful moves in the early levels. As long as you combine your carry with the strategies discussed in this guide, it does not matter what the type is. However, the preference is special attackers over physical attackers, as physical attackers are more prone to getting decreased stats in battle, and there are more Pokémons with a high defense stat than a high special defense stat. The main reason why we want to capture every Pokémon that has good base stats or access to good abilities and moves is to further improve its IVs. Catching Pokémon in PokeRogue improves the IVs of the caught Pokémon. If the Pokémon you capture has better IVs than the one you already own, it will improve until they are maxed out at 31. In addition to unlocking the Pokémon's best abilities, and a recent update made it so putting Nature Mint on your Pokémon unlocks that nature for the starter select screen. If your carry Pokémon of choice does not have a good nature, don't worry. If you decide to start your Endless run with a carry that does not have its best in slot nature available, you want to prioritize getting the right nature over any other Ultra Ball tier item. Once again, these are the nature mints. When you start building your team, you can toggle between its natures, ability and even the gender in the starter select screen. This option becomes available when you have multiple unlocked for a single Pokémon. Be sure to pick the best nature and ability for the Pokémon you bring on your team. To check if a Pokémon has good base stats, you want to refer to Bulbapedia. As with any link, you can find them in the video description. Once you're on Bulbapedia, you can search for Pokémons in the search bar at the top right corner of the page and then scroll down to see its base stats. This is one of the best sources to learn all the ins and outs about your favorite Pokémons. Now that you hopefully gained some inspiration and have decided who your carry is going to be, who your pickup Pokémon will be and who your runaway Pokémon will be, and last but not least, but a little bit more difficult to have, your PokeRogue Pokémon, you can fill up the rest of your party with shiny Pokémon. The time has arrived to talk about the mechanics of Endless Mode. Endless Mode has an unskippable boss wave every 50 waves, and every 250 waves you will run into Eternatus. Up until wave 1000, Eternatus will be the exact same in normal mode, but it does not have the move Flamethrower in Endless. Every 1000 waves, Eternatus is also in his Eternamax form, with the mini black hole item. It is good practice to check your Pokemon items often, but especially when you have just beaten EMAX Eternatus. You should know that the Paradox Pokemon you encounter every 50 waves can also be a double battle. These are the most difficult fights you'll find in Endless, and also the reason why you will eventually always want to have 2 carry Pokemon. It is very likely that you will not be able to beat this fight the first try, which is okay, you just try again. After beating wave 1000 you get fusion tokens, which give a 1% chance per token to make your foe fusion. This can also apply to boss waves and Eternatus, but does not apply to the Paradox Pokemon. The token system in Endless is a very important factor on the difficulty of your run. The order in which you acquire the tokens can make one run a lot easier than the other. There are a grand total of 12 different tokens, and as with anything in Endless mode, these tokens add up exponentially as your run progresses. Feel free to stop the video at any point to have a better look at one of the tokens, but they kinda explain themselves. The worst token to deal with by far is the recovery token. If those stack up too much, it can be almost impossible to outdamage a foe without proper strategy. The status tokens can be very annoying for your run as well, if you're not at the point yet where berries are unlimited. More on this later. As I said before, these tokens will be different for everyone. However, there are some fixed points in every run where everyone receives the same type of token, such as the fusion tokens after wave 1000. There's one more important thing to notice about tokens, and that is if they max out, all of them, your run will basically crash and you will not be able to continue. However, this takes a long time to happen. You can see if the token has maxed out by the red indicating number that is shown on top of the token. This is also one of the major things the developers of PokeRogue are trying to change about Endless mode. If you don't have access to one of the requirements set so far, do not fear. Try to implement as much of the strategy I shared so far and am about to present to you as you can. I'm sure you can make it to a point where capturing lots of Pokemons becomes an easy task. After starting and playing through 1 or 2 endless runs where you try to capture as many shinies and Pokemons as you can, you should be able to set yourself up to make it close to a point where you max out your tokens. It is possible to get very far on your first endless run, and I guess I'm the living example of that. It all depends on RNG. Remember, you want to capture everything whenever possible. The motto of Pokemon has not been more true for any other Pokemon game out there. You truly gotta catch them all in PokeRogue. The time has arrived to talk about one of the more difficult concepts of PokeRogue, which is item prioritization. There are a lot of items to pick from, so it can be really difficult to figure out what the best order of picking items is. As a rule of thumb, you always want to prioritize big nuggets and relic gold in the beginning stages of the run, or even smaller nuggets if you're tight on money. As you progress through the waves of Endless, you will get exponentially increasing amounts of money from these items. When you're rich, you're winning, as it allows you to re-roll items that you're looking for once you obtain the lock capsule. Whenever this item shows up in the shop, pick it. Even if you had to choose between the shiny charm and the capsule is way more important. Once you have obtained the lock capsule and you don't mind resetting your run, you can fish for the exact items you need by resetting your encounter. You do this by refreshing the web page when in the item shop by pressing F5. Keep using different combinations of locking reroll and rerolling to switch up the RNG and grab the exact items you need the most. Note that if you do mind resetting, you're going to have a really hard time to get far. At some point it is even essential if you're looking to get to the end of Endless and maxing out your tokens. At the beginning of the guide I explained why pickup is so good. However, there's an item in the game that's even better than the pickup ability. This is the mini black hole, which steals one held item from the foe every single turn with 100% success. This can even steal vitamins, unlike pickup, and thus it makes it easier to max out your carries with vitamins. All you should care about in the early waves is experience. You want to get to the level cap as fast as possible. Be sure to always grab XP charms and super XP charms whenever they show up in the item shop. Last but not least, the XP share all item is a great addition to this too, but it's the least important. Don't forget to frequently check your pickup Pokemon for eggs and golden eggs, as these will drastically increase the experience gain on your carries too if you transfer them to them. Rare and golden candy is not going to do much for you until you have obtained a couple of candy jars. If these happen to be the best item choice and you do somehow manage to pick up a lot of candy jars very early on, it can actually be a great pick to get some rare candies here and there. It is important to know that rare candy and golden rare candy can level up your Pokemon past their level cap. In the later stages of Endless you should aim to be way higher level than your foes. The next layer of item acquisition are grip claws. You put these on your carry to add yet another 10% chance per attack to steal an item from your foe. You can have up to 5 Grip Claws for a total of a 50% chance to steal an item. Grip Claw has great synergy with a carry that utilizes multi-hit moves. These are usually Pokemon with the ability Skill Link, which always makes them hit the maximum possible amount of hits a move can do. More on this later, as it's a potential late game strategy, but for now we focus on making it to Wave 2k+. Almost equally important are Amulet Coins, a rogue tier item that increases your money rewards by 20%. You can have up to a maximum of 5, which increases all your money you gain by 100%. A little less important, but certainly a priority for the early game, is the Golden Punch item, which you want to apply to your carry so it earns 50% of the damage it deals as money. You can have up to a total of 5 of these. That makes it so 250% of the damage dealt is added to your PokeRogue bank account every time you hit. These are a lot easier to come by than the Amulet Coins, as they are only an Ultra Ball tier, which is one item tier lower than the Amulet Coin. If a Master Ball presents itself at any point and you have none of them yet, it is always a good idea to pick up one, as it will guarantee that you can capture that shiny or legendary Pokemon once you run into one. Now that we have covered every item that can help you earn money in PokeRogue, and you have all your finances in check, it becomes easy to re-roll on every wave to fish for certain items. And it's time to get the real goods. That is, if you have the lock capsule, which remember, you should pick above any other item in the game. If you feel like your carry is struggling, there's good reason to pick more items that help you out in battles, even if you don't have all the items that will help you with money. When it comes to buffing your carry, you want to prioritize the following items in order. Berry Pouch, a 25% chance per berry to keep your berry when it's consumed. You can have a maximum of 3 for a total chance of 75% to not consume berries. Next up is the Focus Band, which gives your Pokemon a 10% chance to survive any hit that would kill them. You can have a maximum of 5 of those. Almost as important as the previous 2 items, but slightly less, are all the healing items. First up is Leftovers, which heals you every turn. You can have a maximum of 4. Leftovers unconditionally heals your Pokemon for 1/16 of their HP. Maxing these out on your carry gives you a 25% healing every turn. Shell Bell. Shell Bell heals your Pokemon for 12.5% every time they hit a foe. You can have a maximum of 4 of those too. Although Shell Bell heals much more than Leftovers with 50% healing when maxed out, it does rely on you hitting the opponent, and this can be very difficult when running into constant status effects due to tokens ramping up. King's Rogue. King's Rogue adds a 10% flinch chance every time you hit an opponent. These max out at 5. Wide Lens. Wide Lens increases move accuracy by 5% per stack. You can stack up to however many it takes to make it so all the moves on the Pokemon have 100% accuracy. When you have a significant amount of the self-healing items, Healing Charm, with 10% increased healing from any source, becomes incredible. All these items should make your carry near unstoppable, but there is more. Once again, do not forget to transfer any damage boosting items from your pickup Pokemon to your carry. When you have your lock capsule, you want to prioritize the next items in the following order. Shiny Charm. Getting shinies is the bread and butter of PokeRogue, remember? The base shiny rate in PokeRogue of encountering a wild shiny is 1 in 2000. Your first shiny charm is the most impactful, as it increases the odds by a factor of 4, to make it 1 in 500. The second, third and fourth shiny charm will increase the odds by a factor of 2, to make it 1 in 250, 1 in 125 and 1 in 62.5 respectively. Now add on to that you're gonna do a lot of double battles as you wanna stack on max lures. The odds of encountering a wild shiny become 1 in 31.25. If you already have the best in slot nature for your carry Pokemon, take Soul Dew next. Soul Dew increases the effectiveness of your Pokemon's nature by 10% with a maximum of 10 for a 100% increase. This is a Rogue Ball tier item. If you do not have the best in slot nature for your carry Pokemon, it is essential to search for Nature Mints, an Ultra Ball tier item that lets you change a Pokemon's nature. You should prioritize this above anything, as long as you have your finances in check, which remains the most important. Except for the lock capsule, of course. Last but not least, take the hidden ability charms. It is always nice to catch more Pokemon with hidden abilities. However, keep in mind that this also makes some battles more difficult. With a maximum of 4 hidden ability charms, 1 in 8 Pokemon you encounter will have their hidden ability. Time to add some additional clarity to everything we have just discussed. Other than the lock capsule and amulet coins being a must pick whenever they appear, all the other important items are best picked up whenever they present themselves. It can be an impossible task to fish for one single item until you are deep in your endless run and have a lot of money. Every run is going to look completely different, and the best you can do is balance it out and see what you need. The best this guide can do is form a baseline and make you understand why certain items are so important. There are also items you do not want to pick up when optimizing your run, one of them being the Terra Orb. If you're on your way and cruising through the waves and are getting close to maxing out your carry with vitamins, you do want to pick it up to thin the item pool. The reason to not pick up the Terra Orb before maxing out your vitamins is because there are no more items in the Great Ball tier that are going to help you, except maybe a TM in very specific situation. So you want to increase your odds of getting a good item from the Ultra Balls. An item you never want to pick are the XP balance items. All it does is take away experience from your carry and makes it harder to keep your carry at the level cap. Last but not least, I advise you not to pick up the IV scanner, as it's a chore to have to press an extra 2 buttons every wave, and you're better off playing faster. If you don't care about this, and you feel like knowing the IVs of your foe is important, you could pick it up. Another positive thing about picking it up is that it again removes the item from the item pool, so it might show something more useful instead, such as a golden candy or a max lure. An item we have not talked about yet is the multi-lens, which can help you inflict multiple hits which combine really well with a move that can make a foe flinch, for example. You can have a maximum of 3 of these on your Pokemon. However, do note that this also decreases your damage drastically. In an ideal scenario, you have a Pokemon with the ability Skill Link, which makes multi-hit moves hit their maximum amount of times. This pairs really well with the multi-lens and, as said earlier, with the King's Rock. When you are on your way to wave 250, you are not going to be able to reroll much for items, as you do not have that much money. When you have made it to wave 250 plus, beat your first Endless Eternatus, and your carry is at the level cap, you should be good to go for a long time. At this point it becomes very important to start picking up candy jars. Candy jars increase the level rare candies and golden rare candies give by 1 for each candy jar. At the maximum of 99 candy jars, you'll be able to gain 100 levels per candy. Candy jars are something you always want to pick up if you don't have much money to reroll, or the other options are the lesser ones. The earlier you get 99 of them, the better. Applying all the previously discussed strategy and investing candies in your carry to make sure you are well above the wave's level cap will eventually get you to about wave 2000. Around wave 1500 you should have been able to max out your 4 shiny charms and have a carry that can seamlessly deal with everything that's thrown at it. If this is the case, you can start stacking up to 5 max lures, so you always run into double battles, which essentially doubles the odds of finding shiny and legendary Pokemon. In addition to that, this is about the point in your run where you also want to focus on stacking up Master Balls, so you can easily capture whatever you need. Beyond wave 2000, a lot of carries start to fall off and you need to change strategy. This is namely because, as anything in endless mode, tokens also increase exponentially, and at this point most foes will simply one-shot your carry with each and every move. There are certain fusions between 2 very strong legendary Pokemon that can still hold up at this point, but it is unlikely you have access to these. An example of this would be Zacian plus Cortana, with a moveset of Night Slash, Sacred Sword, Behemoth Blade and Sword Stance. It is very important to hold on to your original carry, as it will help you in double battles. This is also the reason you want to prioritize golden rare candies over normal rare candies, because having a backup carry can be essential in tough battles. Your backup carry is most likely going to be a Leech Seed setter. There are only a few strategies you can apply to make it to the endgame of Endless. I will be teaching you the one I am using, as it's very accessible and very likely you're able to set it up during your run if you made it to wave 1500 plus. However, do note that this fusion can still die to multi-hit moves from foes. This is why it's so important to max out those 5 focus bands on your carry, so you always have at least a 50% chance to survive a hit on 1 HP. When running into tough fights, don't give up if the foe has something that can kill your carry, and if nothing works out, you always have your runaway Pokemon. When running into something nasty, try different rotations of moves and switching your team's Pokemons. This will change up the RNG of the game, and it's the same principle that applies to item rerolling. Sometimes it can take a while to find the right rotation that will win you the fight. Just don't give up too easily. Let's dive straight into all the ins and outs of your Garnicle Archaludon fusion. The Steel type from Archaludon gives it access to the move Metal Burst, which will retaliate 150% of the damage it took from its foe. You can see how this works well with Sturdy, as it will always retaliate the maximum amount of possible damage. If you capture an Archaludon that does not have Metal Burst, don't worry, you can use a memory mushroom to teach it. Archaludon can be captured in the construction biome as a rare boss Pokemon. It can be difficult to pick him up during your run, so it is an idea to bring him with you from the beginning if you have one to guarantee that you can make the fusion. On the flip side, Garganacl is a lot more common and you would have to be incredibly unlucky to not run into one by wave 2000. Garganacl can be found in the cave and mountain biomes, with common and uncommon rates respectively. So how exactly do you heal up to full HP every turn? Well, with maxed out healing items, you will always heal back to full from 1 HP when being hit by a super effective move, because this also procs your Enigma Berry, which heals you for 25% if hit by a super effective move. When hit by a neutral or not very effective move and you fail to hit your foe due to status or other means, so your Shell Bell does not proc, you won't heal back to full. To make sure we can always heal back to full, so Sturdy can proc, we also have the move Protect in the moveset. Unfortunately, neither Garganacl nor Archaludon learns Protect naturally, so we will have to pick it up from the shop. It's a normal Pokeball tier, however, there are a lot of TMs available in the shop, so it can take a while to find. In addition to Metal Burst and Protect, we use Garganacl's signature move Salt Cure to help us outpace the healing of the foe. This goes really well combined with your Leech Seed setter. If your Garganacl for whatever odd reason misses the move, use a memory mushroom to get it. It's important to know that Metal Burst does not scale its damage with a Pokemon's attack stat or any damage scaling items for that matter. The only thing Metal Burst cares about is a Pokemon's HP. The more HP, the more damage potential Metal Burst has. Note that Archaludon is not an absolute necessity for the Metal Burst strategy. You can use any Steel type mon for this strategy. Garganacl on the other hand is a requirement, as it's the only Pokemon that has access to the move Salt Cure. To make your fusion even stronger, you can unfuse it after you've fused your Steel Pokemon with a Garganacl and learn Salt Cure on it. Then you can unfuse, as it will keep its moveset. Then fuse it again with a very bulky Pokemon such as Blissey to max out its HP stat. You will always lose the second Pokemon that was used in the fusion when unsplicing. One more move that offers nothing but quality of life is Roar. Roar is a common TM just like Protect. It can prevent the need from switching into and using your runaway Pokemon when you want to skip an encounter. Now that your Arcanacl or fusion of your own choice is ready to rock and roll, make sure that it is maxed out on all the healing items, focus bands and soul dew. We want a nature on our fusion that has negative speed and positive anything, does not matter which one. With 10 soul dew, your Metal Burst Pokemon will have a speed stat of 1, which is exactly what we want, because we want to ensure that Metal Burst acts last as often as possible, as the move will fail if you do not have taken any damage. One last thing to boost your Sturdy Steel Burst fusion with is PP max items. You want to max out the PP of your Metal Burst and Protect, as it's possible you run into an inescapable foe that has the ability Unnerve, which makes it so you cannot eat any berries and you might need the PP to turn the tide of the battle. Before fusing anything in PokeRogue, it is good practice to always refer to the fusing mechanics as they are stated on the PokeRogue wiki, or this segment of the video. It can mess up your entire run if you make a mistake when fusing Pokemon, as you cannot go back. After wave 3000, it is inevitable that your foes will also heal back to full HP or close to full HP if they endure your hit. So the only viable option to win the wave is to be able to one-shot your opponent. You do this by constantly taking damage using your berries to get to stat stage 6. For some odd reasons, stat changes from berries do actually increase the damage of Metal Burst. A Pokemon we have not discussed that can help you in very specific situations is a fairy type with access to the move Misty Terrain. For example, a foggy terrain gives your mons a massive accuracy decrease, which is terrible and can be removed if you have Misty Terrain. Similar, and even better, is having a fairy type with the ability Misty Surge. This Pokemon will set Misty Terrain the moment they enter the battlefield, so it doesn't have to outspeed the foe in order for it to work. Another Pokemon that will help you massively in your Endless run, and one I've already mentioned, is any good grass Pokemon that learns the move Leech Seed, preferably fused with a Pokemon that can learn Soak. In tough battles, you open with your Leech Seed setter, by soaking the foe, which turns it into a water type, and then Leech Seeding. Leech Seed deals double the damage per turn on water types. After that you switch into your Metal Burst fusion and use Salt Cure. Then it becomes a game of switching between Metal Burst and Protect. For your Leech Seed Mon, you have two good options when it comes to abilities. You can refuse it with a Shedinja to give it Wonder Guard, so you can only be hit by super effective moves. However, Wonder Guard is not that good, as most of the Paradox Pokemon you'll run into every 50 waves usually cover at least 3 types. So my preference goes out to the second option, and that is to fuse it with a Pokemon that has Sturdy if you didn't already have Sturdy on your Leech Seed setter. And at last, it can be helpful to have a strong and fast Pokemon that has a move with an innate flinch chance, such as Metagross with Zen Headbutt, which has a 20% chance to flinch on hit. Remember the multi-land skill link synergy we talked about earlier? That's another example. Now that you have learned how to build your party, how to prioritize items in the early and mid game, use and apply meta strategies and all the mechanics of Endless, there are only a couple things left to talk about that are important to know. One of those things is the preparation for boss fights. An item you always want to have 2 of on your carry Pokemon are Reviver Seeds. This gives your Pokemon a second life, as it will heal back to 50% HP on death. It can be nice to pick these up early in the run too. It is of dire importance to always check your Pokemon's items several ways before you have a Paradox or Eternatus encounter, so you can make sure you go into the fight as strong as possible. This is also a great time to see if you can move some more items around, such as damage boosting items and or berries. All these little things add up and they can decide the tide of battle for you. You should know which Pokemons pose the biggest threat to you and your team. Even if you apply all of the strategy discussed in this guide correctly, there are still going to be some encounters that are an absolute pain or simply impossible to win from. These threats are multi-hit moves from the opponent, as those are able to break through your Sturdy, and another one we have discussed already, the Fog Setters, a very heavy accuracy decrease that can be deadly without having access to Misty Surge or Misty Terrain. Another pain are Pokemons that can inflict damage on your turn rather than theirs, as this can effectively act as a multi-hit move combined with another attack. An example of this would be the move Future Sight, which deals damage 2 turns after it's used, on your turn. In general, any double battle can be a pain if both opposing Pokemons target your Sturdy Metal Burst fusion. 2 hits means you can only survive if your Focus Bands procs. As mentioned earlier in the guide, the ability Unnerve can also be deadly, as you're unable to eat any berries and you can't go to stat stage 6, nor can you heal your non-volatile status effects automatically with berries. When running into one of these threats, you're usually best off using Roar or your runaway Pokemon to make a safe getaway, or throw a Master Ball and straight up capture your threat. However, you can't do this in the Paradox and Eternatus waves. Something we have not covered in the guide at all are Pokemon passives, which are unique to PokeRogue. They are essentially a second ability, and if you have any of them unlocked for your starting party, this is amazing, but by no means required to make it to the end of Endless. Pokemon passives are unlocked with Pokemon Candy, and candy is obtained by playing the game with your favorite Pokemon in your party, and this process can be sped up by taking the Soothing Bell item. Feel free to figure out a good passive that will complement any of the strategy discussed in this guide. Personally, I did not have any passive available when starting my Endless run that made it to 6251 with the run still going. Endless is going to be updated and overhauled in the future. But before this happens, this guide should serve as a great foundation of meta strategy. And hopefully, when Endless is updated, most of the things in this guide are still relevant. Applying everything you have learned in this guide video should set you up for a successful Endless run. But I have to remind you that PokeRogue is a game heavily influenced by RNG, and sometimes even the best strategy is going to make you run into a brick wall. Thank you so much for watching through the whole video. I hope you have learned a thing or two, and that this work earned your sub. I wish you all the luck and fun in the world with your PokeRogue journey. If you have any questions, or you're not sure if you understand something correctly, please do not hesitate to ask it in the comments or on Discord. Ciao!